Thank you, dear delegates, for joining to the next session of the day. Now, for the next session, I would like to welcome Dr. C. Gunasekaran sir. Dr. C. Gunasekaran sir is currently working as an assistant professor, Conservation Biology Lab, Department of Zoology, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. He has completed MSc, MPhil, PhD in zoology and has 13 years experience in teaching and 28 years of research. His areas of specialization are conservation biology, taxonomy, and molecular studies of insects, biological pest control, GIS, animal welfare, climate change, man-animal conflict, conservation education. He has collaborated funded research projects with UGC, DST, RUSA, and CSIR, and also received UGC JRF and Inspire Fellowship for his funded projects, and has also assisted over 15 projects at national and international institutes. He has published over 50 research papers in various national and international journals. I welcome Dr. Gunasekaran sir to speak about the research and bioethics. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your nice introduction about myself. Before getting to the actual thing, I just wanted to share a couple of my things. I mean, what are all the things which I have been in the CPCAC and today, actually, I have gone through several institutes. This is nearly past 2 decades. And what happened was I have visited several pharmacy colleges, medical colleges as well, and other arts and science universities and colleges as a CPCAC nominee. One institute I have visited a couple of years back, and what they have, while I visited that particular institute, what they said is, the CPCAC is, doesn't know about CPCAC and guidelines and other things. But they are doing research on animals. They have getting approval from different other institutes, and they are doing a kind of research. So that time I was thinking about this thing. I mean, why I have chosen this particular area to study about these things in I think ethics, I think, am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Somewhat from this point.
Ethics are the rules or standards that govern the way people behave and their decisions on the right thing to do. I think all the walks of life we are thinking about this, right from the morning till go to bed. We are thinking of this ethics, and it asks basic questions about what is right and wrong, how we should act towards others, and what we should do in a specific situation. So these are all the basic things on ethics. And coming to the bioethics, the term bioethics was first used by the biologist Van Rensselaer-Potter, and gradually the term bioethics came to refer the model problem of life sciences and which encompass medicine, biology, and some important aspect of the environmental, population, and social sciences. I'm not going to the detail on this bioethics because you have a paper on bioethics. Coming to the CPCAC, CPCAC is it was constituted in the year 1965 itself, where Prevention of Cruelty to Animal Acts was amended during that period. And here, why the particular committee was formed? It is formed because of animals are not subjected to unnecessary pain or suffering before, during, or after the performance of experiments on them. So that is why the government of India has formed this committee under the Animal Welfare Government of India. That is CPCSA is a statutory committee of the Department of Animal Husbandary and Dairying, Ministry of Fisheries. Previously, it was with the Ministry of Environment and Forest. For this purpose, the committee formulated the breeding of and experiments on animals. As I told you, this is amended in the year 1965. After that, it is amended in the year 2001 to regulate the experimentation on animals. Under the provision of the above rules, establishments who are engaged in biomedical research, breeding and trading of laboratory animals are required to themselves registered with CPCSA. And there are about 90 members in the CPCSA, wherein Dr. O.P. Chowdhury, Joint Secretary of Animal Welfare, is the chairman of the CPCSA, and Dr. S.K. Datta, Joint Commissioner of Animal Welfare, is a member secretary of the CPCSA. The objective of this particular thing is, the CPCSA is effective functioning of the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. The institute, those who are doing a research on animals, have to form a committee called Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. Is to quality and a consistent ethical review mechanism for research in animals is put in place for all proposals dealt by the committee as prescribed by the CPCSA and PCA Act 1960 and Breeding and Experimental Rules in 1998. So coming to the functions of Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, it's as defined in Breeding of and Experiments on Animals, that was rules in 1998. Institutional Animal Ethics Committee means a body comprising of a group of persons recognized and registered by the committee for the purpose of control and supervision on animals performed in an establishment which is constituted and operated in accordance with the procedures specified for the purpose by the committee. The primary duty of the IAC is to work for achievement of the objectives as mentioned above. So here, IAC, that is Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, will review and approve all types of research proposal involving small animal experimentation before the start of the study. For experimentation on large animals, the cost is required to be forwarded to CPCSA is prescribed the manner with recommendation of Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. Whereas in large animals, we have to send a proposal to the CPCSA New Delhi for the approval. Okay, they are the people only who the large animal facility. And IAC is required to monitor research throughout the study and after the completion of the study through periodic report and visit to animal house and laboratory where the experiments are conducted. And the committee has to ensure compliance with all regulatory recommends, applicable rules and guidelines and laws of CPCSA now and then. So coming to the composition of Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, in the Animal Ethics Committee, we have a 7-member committee. Biological scientists, we need biological scientists for the committee and 2 scientists from different biological disciplines. And a veterinarian involved in care of animals, scientists in charge of animal house facility of the establishment concern, and a scientist from outside the institute, a non-scientific socially aware member, and a nominee of CPCSA. And here the 5, 6, and 7, that is a scientist and a non-scientific socially aware nominee, and a nominee of CPCSA. These are all the things. CPCSA has approved all these persons. 5, 6, and 7. Why the CPCSA is this is one of the global laboratory practice for animal facilities, and it is intended to assure quality, maintenance, and the safety of animals used in laboratory studies while conducting biomedical and behavioral research and testing of products. And coming to the CPCSA guidelines for standard operation procedures, that is, we need to care of veterinary care, that is animal procurement, and quarantine, stabilization, and separation of animals, and surveillance, diagnosis, treatment, and control of disease, and animal care and technical personal hygiene, animal experimentation involving hazardous agent, and multiple surgical procedure on single animal, duration of experiments, and physical restraint, physical plant, physical relationship of animal facilities to laboratories, functional areas, physical facilities, environment, animal husbandry, activity, food, bathing, water, and sanitation and cleanliness, and assessing the effectiveness of sanitation, and waste disposal, pest control and emergency, weekend and holiday care, record keeping, standard, that is SOP, and personal and training, transport and laboratory animals, and laboratory animal ethics, anesthesia and euthanasia, transgenic animals, maintenance, breeding. So these are all the things, or SOP of CPCSA, and I'll explain one by one. That is veterinary care. Veterinary care is the most important thing for the animal house facility, and here the full-time veterinarian's role is important in the animal house facility. That is the responsibility of vet or the person in charge of animal house. Most of the industrial, institutes, they have a full-time veterinarian with them, and his role is very important. And appropriate policy decision, it has to have appropriate policy decision, and a review protocol and a proposal, and animal husbandry and animal welfare, supervising animal nutrition and sanitation. And another thing is, the main thing is a daily observation of animals. This is most important thing for the veterinarian's role here, and monitoring health hazards of containment, and zoonosis control programs, and supervising animal nutrition and sanitation. So these are all the foremost care for veterinary care for veterinary. Okay, and animal procurement, and this is also a mandatory thing for the CPCSA, and all the animals must be acquired lawfully as per the CPCSA guidelines, and health surveillance program for screening incoming animals should be carried out to assess animal quality, and each consignment of animals should be inspected for compliance with the procurement specifications, and the animals should be quarantined and stabilized according to the procedures appropriate for the species and the circumstances. And the quarantine, stabilization, and separation. The quarantine is the separation of newly received animal from those already in the facility until the health and possibly the microbial status of newly received animals have been determined. This is mostly to minimize the chance of introduction of pathogens. So this is one of the major important thing for procuring animals: quarantine, stabilization, and separation. And another thing is surveillance, diagnosis, treatment, and control of disease. All the animals should be observed for sign of illness and injury or abnormal behavior by animal house staff. As ruled, this should occur daily, but more frequent observation might be warranted, such as during post-operative recovery, or when animals are ill or have a physical deficit. The country like Singapore, where I visited a couple of times, what the researchers do is they have a contact with the animal house facility, in charge of animal house facility, and they used to inquire about the animals, the behavior and observation and the sign of disease or behavior kind of thing. So this is one of the thing I have watched during the visit in the institute, like NUS, National University of Singapore. So animal care and technical personnel and animal care programs, we need to have a kind of this program. The animal house keepers has to have a training of this kind of program. This kind of small programs or the certificate course or small programs are organized by the National Institute of Nutrition, Hyderabad, and Central Food Technological Research Institute, Mysore. So such kind of people have to have such a program. That is one of the job training program for effective implementation of this animal house facility. So personal hygiene also important thing, wherein commercial laundry service we need to provide, and decontaminated clothing and the hand covers, coats, coveralls, and shoe covers. These are all the mandatory while entering into the animal house facility. That is some GLP kind of laboratories. They have a washing and showering facility. Personal should not be permitted to eat, drink, smoke, or apply cosmetics in animals. So these are all the mandatory things we have to follow while in animal house. And when animal experimentation involving hazardous agents such as they have to undergo this institutional biosafety committee, and then only the institutional animal ethics committee will allow such a kind of proposals, especially the proposals from pharmaceutical industries. We have to examine the proposal in animal experiments. So these are all the mandatory things for the CPCSA guidelines. So sometimes the researchers do multiple surgical procedures on single animal. This is not been allowed in the CPCSA guidelines, and this is a mandatory thing. The CPCSA won't allow such a practice in the animal house facility. And duration of the experiments also more than 3 years is 3 years. As per the CPCSA guidelines, 3 years only allowed for such a kind of experiments. More than 3 years is not at all allowed by the CPCSA guidelines. And what are the physical restraint like minimize stress and avoid injury, especially non-human primates, and a less restrictive system, and the veterinary care should be provided, lesion and or illness to be observed. So these are all the basic things for the facility. And a physical plan like efficiency and economy and animal facility, institutional research, a well-planned, properly maintained facility is an important element in good animal care. I think in Coimbatore, we can say, the PSG animal house facility is one of the model for their Coimbatore. When I was in nominee for the PSG medical college, during that time only they plan to construct that newly constructed that is animal house facility in PSG. This is one of the role model for the entire Coimbatore. Not only entire Coimbatore, even they have a GLP practice and all there going there. So this is one of the very good model in India, I could say, as a medical college. And physical relationship on animal facility to laboratories. That is, laboratory animals are very sensitive to their living conditions. This is not to expose to dust, smoke, noise, wild rodents, insects, and birds. And also the animal quarters in a separate building, wind, floor, Animals are very sensitive to environmental changes, sharp fluctuation in temperature and humidity, light, sound, and ventilation should be avoided. So these are all the factors which affect the animals mostly. So we need to avoid such a kind of thing. And the functional areas like ensure separation of species or isolation of individual projects when necessary. And if suppose if it is a specific project or individual projects, we need to keep separate SOP for such projects, and we need to keep the projects in separately. Okay, and receive, quarantine and isolate animals, and provide for animal housing. And sometimes specialized laboratory will be there, especially vaccine production laboratories. And we need to give a special care for such laboratories, and housing areas for such activities such as surgery, intensive care, necropsy, and radiography, preparation of special diets, experimental manipulation, treatment, and diagnostic laboratory procedures, containment facilities, and equipment if hazardous biological, physical, or chemical agents are to be used, and receiving and storage areas for food and bedding. These should be separate from the house. And sometimes the pharmaceuticals and biological supplies, space for administration, and supervision and direction of the facility, showers, sinks, lockers and toilets for personnel, an area for washing and sterilization of equipment and supplies, and autoclave for the equipment, and food and bedding separate areas for holding soiled and uncleaned equipment, and an area for repairing cages and equipment, and areas to store waste prior to incineration. And nowadays the CPCSA give a guideline saying that we need to memorandum of understanding with the local waste management system. So this is mandatory for the animal house facilities. And building materials, corridors, animal room doors, exterior windows, floors, drains, walls, and ceiling should be maintained properly. So we need to concentrate on these things. Materials, corridors are to be very clean, and it is well planned according to the facility program. Okay, and we need to give storage areas separately, and facilities for sanitation equipment and the supplies and experimental areas. We need to provide everything in a separate wing, and we need to monitor that temperature and humidity control, ventilation, power and lighting, noise control. Noise level should be minimum level. CPCSA won't allow such a kind of thing. One institute here in Tamil Nadu, they have a kind of textile industry. It's a nearby animal house facility. So we are not allowing such a kind of facility at the premises. So during inspection, this is the nominees. We will see such a kind of thing in the animal facilities. So animal husbandry is one of the major things that is caging or housing the housing system, and provide a space that is adequate, and permit freedom of movement and a normal postural adjustment, and have a resting place appropriate to the species, and provide a comfortable environment, and provide an escape-proof enclosure that contains animal safety, and provide easy access to food and water. So when designing an animal house, we need to give a focus on animal husbandry thing, and provide adequate ventilation, and meet the biological need of the animals, such as maintenance of body temperature, urination, defecation, and reproduction, and keep the animals dry and clean, consistent with the species requirements, and facilitate research while maintaining good health. The ultimate thing is that and sheltered or outdoor housing, outdoor runs and things, and protection from extreme temperature, and escape mechanism for submissive animals contoured on the drained surface. We need to give a kind of social environment, that is population density and the ability to disperse, initial familiarity among animals. And activities such as specialized locomotor curtains we have to provide, and cages are often used for short term, not more than 3 months. And isolation of sick animals, that is a more important thing in the laboratory facility. And when you talk of the food facility, the adequate nutrition is provided, free from chemicals and microbial contamination, and free from heavy metals. And feed should contain essential minerals, proteins, vitamins, fat, and carbohydrate. So the CPCSA has advised the animal house facility to give a kind of testing to the Central Food Technological Research Institute, Mysore. For every year, we have to send the food material sampling of food materials to the CFTRI, and we need to provide a Paka thing to, I mean, in the animal health facility, we need to put a chart in the facility. And bedding also, it's this is also one of the important thing. Ideal to change the bedding twice a week at least, and rodent contacts material should be removed twice a day, and sterilizing equipments and deodorizers or chemical agents, germicidal agents, acid solutions, autoclave or gas sterilizer. So these are all the main thing. The sanitation is one of the main facilities. Above all, the record keeping. The record keeping is one of the foremost mandatory thing in the animal house facility. That is, animal. We need to provide or keep animal house plan, which includes a typical floor plan, all pictures, etc., and animal house stock record, both technical and non-technical, and health record of staff and animals. This is also mandatory in the CPCSA guidelines. We need to stop health record also we need to maintain, as well as and all standard operating procedures relevant to the animals. We need to put a chart in front of the animal house of all the SOPs of a particular project, and breeding stock purchase and sale records. So we need to provide all the stock registers here, and minutes of the Institute Animal Ethics Committee meetings. We need to keep all the Animal Ethics Committee meetings in the office provided. And records of experiments conducted with the number of animals, death records, and clinical record of the sick animals, training record of staff involved in animal activities, and water analysis. So these are all the mandatory things the CPCSA is just to maintain for all the animal species. And we need to give a standard SOP, that standard operating procedures, name of the author, title of the SOP, and a date of preparation, reference of previous SOP on the same subject, and date, location, and distribution of the SOP with the sign of the recipient objectives. So we need to provide all these details in the animal house. And detailed information of the instruments used in the relation with the animals with the methodology. This is also important. And name of the manufacturer of the reagents, and the methodology of the analysis pertaining to animals, and normal value of all parameters, and as observed in the verification of risk assessment. So these are the things we need to keep in the animal house facility. And here I just wanted to show a couple of animal health facilities available. That is this is a conventional type of animal health facilities that were taken in the Institute in Tamil Nadu. And this is the clean corridor of animal house facility here in Chennai. They have a very good animal house facility there. And these are all some of the animal house facilities with the barrier facilities, so which contains all the kind of things, food and chemicals. We can keep everything in the this kind of barrier facilities. And this is one of the individual cages with environmental control. This is about 13 years back. It was mainly about 30 to 40 lakhs. Now it is more than 40 lakhs now. I think more than 40 lakhs. And, this is if you keep this thing, it control everything. This is one of the facility in Delhi. New Delhi, they have this facility. So some of the GLP laboratories, they have a kind of isolated facilities, specific pathogen-free kind of things there in the facility. And here I want to stress here is that the animal house should be isolated buildings located far away from the human habitation. Some of the institutes where they have a facility with the human habitations. So the animals are, still stress of noise and unwanted noise, and other wild rodents, insects, and other birds. So it should be located far away from the human habitation. So while designing our animal house facility, we need to keep in mind these things. Okay? And especially topography, level, drainage, sunlight, wind direction, availability of electricity, water, accessibility, air, road or rail, future expansion. So these are also we need to keep in mind while designing the animal house facility. And physical relationship of animal house facility to labs for good animal husbandry and human comfort and human protection. We require separation of animal facility from offices, conference rooms, and labs by having separate building, wing, floor, and room. Animal rooms should occupy 50 to 60% of total constructed area, and remaining for stores, washing, office and staff rooms, quarantine and machine rooms, and corridors. Macro and micro environment to be carefully looked at. While designing our animal house facility, we need to keep all these things in mind. The single corridor design, this is the animal house facility available in the previous. Now the CPCACA is not encouraging such a kind of facility, that is single corridor system. And just a model I just shown this to you. And this is a animal house facility with a double corridor system. That is a double corridor system. This is a clean clean corridor. This is a dirty corridor. Keep the waste and all from this area. Okay? So this is one of the animal house facility approved by CPCs. And this is another facility with the entire system that they have handling with the generator room, incinerator, and autoclave, all the animal, and the shower changing facility, and feed store autoclave. This is the typical example for the animal facility wherein CPC has approved such a kind of facility. So as I said earlier, the quarantine functional areas like the quarantine breeding, stock colonies, and storage area, staff area, service area, laboratory area should be free from all these things. This is the overcrowding of animals. This is here the CPCA has allowed only 3 or 4 animals in the cage, but here this is overcrowding, and these are all the factors which affect the animals enormously. That is, one is a cage mates, and specimens, man, food, water, air ventilation, between these pathogens, RH, light, noise, odors, structure, and gauge cells. These are all the major things which affect the laboratory a lot. This is the facility in Trivandrum Medical College. They have a very good large animal facility there. With this, I stop my talk. We have so many things are there in the facilities. I just give a nutshell of the CPC's guidelines to you. I think if you have any kind of clarification, thank you one and all for your patience hearing this afternoon session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any queries or questions, you can post it in your chat box, or you can unmute and talk to sir directly. Is there any questions?
I think Pharmacy Council of India and Medical Council of India, they have these guidelines in their curriculum. So CPCSA insisted that MCA and PCA to incorporate all the CPCSA guidelines in that. So I think the people are very familiar with all these kind of guidelines.
Sir.
Yeah.
So I think there's no question, sir.
Okay.
But the basics of bioethics was very well explained, sir. Whereas the composition of members, what are all the SOPs to be followed, and physical practical approaches for animals, animal houses, everything was very much interesting and informative, sir. I think it will be helpful for all of the research scholars also. So
thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for your, giving me an opportunity to interact with learned society.
So thank you for your information, and we would like to hear much from you, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. I thank our principal sir and the organizing committee for giving me a chance. Thank you, one and all, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Participants will join again by 1:40, and the session will start exactly by 2 o'clock. So thank you for the cooperation, and please do join at 1:40 exactly. Thank you.